You guys know me as an actor, but let me just give you a bit of my background, my family, myself, so you know, guys know me on a personal level as well, as opposed to just knowing me as an actor or a guy who works in Nepali films. I sort of had what you may call a little bit unusual childhood, unusual in the sense that, you know, my father was a diplomat, and he used to get stationed around the world, and that's how I grew up. By the time I finished my school, I went to 6 different countries and 6 different schools in 6 different countries. So that's how I grew up, getting in and out of different countries, getting in and out of different cultures. And there's a good side to it, there's a bad side to it. The good side is that you are very comfortable in all kinds of culture, you adapt to people well, you don't consider any new atmosphere or culture or people as an alien, and you tend to assimilate with people very easily and comfortably. That's the good part. And you feel at home no matter where you are. But the bad side is that you don't really get rooted to one specific thing, one specific culture, one specific place. And when you can call the place your home, it is very difficult to identify as where is home. You know, so that's the bad part. You don't really get rooted in one particular place. So that was the way I grew up. And my father was a diplomat, and I have 4 other siblings. I'll give you a puzzle. I'm a second-born third child. What does that mean? Twins, right. I've got a twin sister above me. I've got 2 sisters who are elder to me, Rita and Rekha. They're both doctors. Rekha practices gynecology in New York, and Rita is a pediatrician at Home Nursing Home Kathmandu. The twins followed by me, and then I have a brother who is into all kinds of social activity and mingles in politics a little bit here and there. A very active guy, very enterprising guy. And then I have a younger sister who's a dentist, and she lives in Ohio. And she's been living in the States for the last almost 19 years and practicing dentistry. Married to a guy called a very American flag waving, apple pie eating guy called Bob from Ohio. She's married to him. A very good guy. He's into computer engineering and very highly enthusiastic, highly top-level amateur cyclist as well. So he likes to cycle, bicycle a lot. Matter of fact, whenever he comes to Nepal every now and then, he sort of brings his bicycle here and bicycles around Kathmandu and the surrounding areas. So that's my sister Rupa, and that's me, and we're all like, my mother's name is Renu, and my father decided to name all of us from R. So it's Rita, Rekha, Rajesh, Rakesh, and Rupa, and my mother's name is Renu. So we're all from R. So that's sort of how we grew up, and I think my seed towards cinema was probably sowed when I was living in Russia, in Moscow. And those were the days I think was the most important phase of my life, because the most prime age of my life. I was there from 11 until I was 16. So a lot of firsts that I did in Russia, like first girlfriend or first beer, or a lot of first things. First noticing hair on my face and things like that. So very impressionable time in Russia. And I think while I was living there was when I started getting attracted to the medium of cinema, not just wanting to be an actor, but the medium itself was more fascinating to me, more than the acting side. I somehow, now when I look back, I think the biggest fascination was that I was really overtaken by the power of cinema, the way it was able to influence and attract so many people at the same time. And the audience, even though they know that it's an illusion, it's a make-believe, they're still totally engrossed and and they are totally embedded in the roller coaster rides of all kind of emotions and all kind of action and all kind of incidents that they show in cinema. So I thought it was a very powerful medium of expressions, of telling stories, of relating to people, of connecting with people, and also giving them hope and ideas, and also giving them motivations. So that's how the attraction started. Not just as wanting to be an actor, but just the whole medium itself, the medium of cinema that attracted me the most. Russia, my phase in Russia was a very interesting one. I was there during the Cold War, not like now. Even though now still they have some problems and they're still sort of like antagonizing some of the people around the world still. But nevertheless, when I was there, it was like on the, what you call the real time of Cold War. And I had, when I was living in Russia, I had almost like 3 different kinds of life that I was living on a day-to-day basis. You know, one life that I had within my own family and the house, which was very much Nepali culture and Nepali ways, as much as it can be when you're living abroad. And then I went to a school which was run by the American and the British Embassy, a school called Anglo-American School. So there it was really like the American way of things, you know, the American studies, the hamburgers, the French fries, and the movies and stuff like that. And then in my neighborhood where I lived, my friends were Russian. If my friends in the school were a guy called Vernon or Wally or Mike, in my neighborhood I had friends called Boris or Andrei or Mikhail, you know. And I found that very interesting because during the Cold Wars, you know, like those 2 countries were really separated and they had their own distinct ideas about one another. But here I was, you know, mingling with both the sides, and I loved my time and companionship with Russian friends, the kind of adventure and the places they took me where foreigners would seldom go, and I really relished that a lot and enjoyed that a lot as a foreigner and as a young guy who likes to be very adventurous. And Boris and Andrei used to take me to really, you know, out of the town. We used to go on bicycles, we used to ride on trains and go to very unknown places on the suburbs of Moscow and places where probably Vernon and Mike could never take me. And then when I was in school, then Vernon and Mike, and well, we had again a different kind of lives, you know, like I said, partying and, you know, making friends and playing sports and going to the American Embassy every now and then and watching, you know, American films and you know how most Americans are, they intend to take media America wherever they go. So no matter whatever they are, they create their own media America there with serving their own food and all kind of stuff. So that was the kind of world that I grew up in, and that's where I got to the attraction towards movie. And when I say attraction towards movie, now again, I was not so much influenced by Hollywood films or Bollywood films as such. I was more interested and influenced by East European films. You know, and even though most of their films, like when I say East European, I mean Russia, Polish, Bulgarian, Czechoslovakian films. You know, and the underlying factor of those films were predominantly propaganda kind of films, but nevertheless they were very realistic. You know, as much as film can be realistic. You know, I'm one of those person who thinks that there's no such thing as realistic cinema, because once you take life into cinema, it takes the art form, it becomes an art form, and it can never be as real as life. But nevertheless, I thought those films, despite their agenda of propaganda, it was very realistic, depicting realistic life, human feelings, and just letting out things bare, you know, without any cosmetic coverings. And that really attracted me. I thought, wow, you know, what a way to tell a story where people can instantly link with their own lives and on selves, and not just link with their dreams or linked with wannabe or I wish I could be. You know, like most movies do that. Most movies like sort of take you on a dream, and you intend to like we call escapism, where you escape from your reality, escape from your own self, and you just pretend, you just imagine, you just dream, and want to be that, or if I only could be that, or you dream of that. Most of the cinema does that, but the Russian films and East European films were the films where they really sort of depicted things on a day-to-day basis. You know, like every normal, average person could identify with the issues there, or even if the issues were not directly related to their own life, at least those issues were somehow connected to whatever issues they were going through, whatever challenges they were going through. So I thought it was a very powerful medium. And that's the kind of school of thought I had of cinema. So unlike most of us here, most of my colleagues here in Nepal were highly influenced by Bollywood films, which is pure escapism, and just going in and being entertained. And I see nothing wrong in that, because the purpose of cinema, another purpose of cinema is also to provide entertainment, to get out of whatever you're doing on a day-to-day basis and be in another space and just enjoy yourself. That is also a purpose of cinema. But that's what it was. So it was not just wanting to be an actor and getting into acting that fascinated me for cinema, but the medium itself. My family background, of course, my father was a very conventional guy. He was in this diplomatic career, and my mother was also, in a sense, a conventional. I would say they were very modern for their times. My parents had a love marriage. My father studied in Banaras University, did his master's, and my mother was studying in London. And somewhere, when they were coming home on a vacation or something, on the same train, they met and this and that, fell in love. So that way they were pretty modern. But when it came to children, they had this very traditional, conventional idea that, this is what life should be for our children. This is kind of a career that they should pursue, and these are the safe things for them to do, those kind of things. And in those days, the safe things for the children was considered to be, whether it be an engineer, or a doctor, a lawyer, or administrator, or army, or police, that kind of thing. So to tell them that more than those things, I'm more fascinated and interested in the medium of cinema was almost unthinkable. That was, I didn't know how to break the ice. Probably this is a story that a lot of actors around the world can relate to, no matter where you are. So it's not confined to Nepal only, because acting as such is a very insecure profession. You can be trained as a doctor, you can be trained as an engineer, and not practice and still say I'm a doctor or an engineer. But no matter how much acting you know, how much of a rajaso you are, if you don't have a resume of work shown, or if you are not reasonably successful as an actor, you can never say I'm an actor. They will just say, you're just a bum. So for an actor to be really taken seriously and to be considered as a person who has achieved something in this life, is to have a tremendous amount of resume or reasonable success in that field. Just because you have this inner passion and desire and you think you're capable, you don't call yourself an actor unless you have a reasonable amount of success. So it's a very insecure profession, and also it is a very democratic profession. Democratic in the sense that you sustain as long as people want you to sustain. If you go out there on the, like you might be a very talented actor, but if you are seen in the screen and people just don't like the way you walk, or the way you talk, or the way you cry, or the way you emote, no matter how much of a talent you have, your career might not go onwards. So unlike other professions, in other professions, if you are trained well, if you really know your craft well, there's no stopping for you to move ahead. But in cinema, for an actor, it doesn't work that way. So you just it's in people's hands as well. So it's very, very democratic. And just because people like you in your first film doesn't mean they will like you in your second film. Just because they like you this year doesn't mean they'll like you next year. So every day is a challenge, every film is a challenge, and you're always on your toes, wondering, will they accept me? They've accepted me now, but will they accept me tomorrow? They've accepted me this year, but will they accept me next year? So that's how an actor's life is. It's very, very insecure. And from my parents' point of view, I can understand. My parents, when they first came to know that I wanted to be in this field, and I sort of broke the ice when we were living in Delhi and I had just finished my university. And I told my father that maybe I would like to pursue a career as an actor. And he was sort of like, he looked at me as if, I don't know, as if I was a dinosaur or something. And then he said, but where do you want to work as an actor? Because in Nepal, 25 years ago, a film scenario was almost non-existent. We were making maybe one film in 3 years or two films in 4 years, that kind of thing. And whenever a person from this part of the world thinks of being in a film or being an actor, one usually thinks of India. And because I was living in India for such a long time, and while I was having this conversation with my dad, we were in Delhi, living in Delhi those days, so he probably thought that I wanted to be in the Indian cinema. And I actually thought that I would, that's how I would start in India itself. And but initially he was shocked, and then he went through this phase of totally rejecting it and saying, "Oh, this is weird. I mean, why do you want to do this? I mean, how are you going to go about it? I mean, how are you going to make a career out of it? How are you going to do a profession? Make a profession out of this? What your future is going to be like? You know, all those kind of questions in Kumar. But then what I told him was that, okay, Mom and Dad, give me some time. You know, I'm young. Give me a few years, 2 years, 3 years. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then I do something else. So whenever you pursue, my experience tells me that if you are pursuing something that is not very certain, not very stable, when there is a risk, or you're taking a path that is not treaded before, it is always wise to have plan B. You cannot really be adamant and say, this is the only thing that I want to do, this is the only way it can be for me, because there is a certain amount of risk. So I had a plan B in my mind. I said, okay, if it doesn't work for another 2-3 years, then I take my plan B. So we just had a sort of compromise. My parents decided not to ask me any questions for a couple of years. But the problem was I didn't know where to start. Unlike other professions, you don't gather your resume and go to an office and look for vacancies. To be an actor, you don't do that. I mean, I've been in this profession for the last 25 years, and if a young aspiring actor asks me where to start, how do I become an actor, I still don't know the answer. I don't know where to start to be an actor. I don't know which doors to knock or where to begin. So that's how uncertain it is, right from day one. But luckily what happened to me was that I was in India, I was trying to pursue this, I went to live in Bombay for a little while, I did my 6-month stint in acting course in Bombay. And then right after that I had come to Kathmandu for a vacation. And I met my uncle, who had just finished his direction course in Russia. And then we met, and he said, "Oh, you're interested in acting?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, I'm making a film here. Would you like to be in it?" Just like that. And I said, "Oh, really? Why not?" I said, and I said, "Okay, if you're here for 40, 50 days, if you can give me 40, 50 days, if you're here for that many days, then I'm making a film. Why don't you act in this film?" And then the name of that film was not Yuki Sama, that was the name of the film. Officially, my first film was Yuki Sama, but that film that my uncle was making at that time was called Bhagyarika. And then, so I decided to be in this film, and we went for on location, and we started shooting this film. But believe it or not, I had to leave that project after 10 days of being in it. We had some misunderstanding amongst the crew, and eventually my uncle, who was the director of the film and the cameraman, thought that I was not suitable for the film and I could not fulfill my task as they wanted to. So after 10 days of shooting, they said that you cannot be in this film because we're not getting what we want from you. I mean, I really don't want to go into the details, but it was not just the acting part he was talking about. There were many other aspects to it as well, which was, I thought, very unprofessional of them. But nevertheless, I mean, he was in control, and I said, okay, if you really don't want me to be in it, then I won't be in it. So I left that project. That first project did not work for me, and that was a great disappointment. Nepali was anybody who asked me to never answer. So, and that was very discouraging as well. And my father and my mother also had now a bigger reason to say that this is not going to work at all. Because see, you went, you tried, and you failed, and it didn't happen for you. So the tension and the challenges at home sort of magnified, got bigger, because my father has substantial proof to say that this doesn't work for you. This is not going to happen. But I sort of did not give hope, When you were young, you sort of intend to take things more easily. You think that you will get over this, and it's all about not how hard you punch, but how many, how tough punches you receive, and how you fall, and how you get up again, and how you walk again. And as a young person, I kind of had all that. I was not a sort of guy who just got disappointed or felt that I was rejected. I had a certain amount of self-confidence. I thought that, no, it was not my fault. They probably didn't see things the way I saw things, but I think I still have it in me, to pursue this. So I did not give up. I went on, and luckily, and after that failure, I went to India and I was doing my things there. I was doing commercials and things like that. I was doing some fashion and related to fashion magazines in Delhi while I was living there, and I lived there for 2 years. And after 2 years, I came back here, and the same team who had rejected me, my uncle, the cameraman, and the whole team, were on the verge of making another film. And after 2 years, when I had come to Nepal, they sort of approached me and said, "We're back here again, and we want you to do another film with us." And I said, "Okay." So it wasn't really my fault, but they rejected me on the first. It started off from that blank, and I did not want to take any grudge. I was not that kind. I said, "Okay, if they offer me another film, I will do it." And take things badly when things didn't work out for us the first time. And we went off, and this film was in summer, which Mina has watched, unfortunately. And that was my first film. And when I did my first film, I never thought that it would be a career, or I would be doing films in Nepal for the next 25 years like I've been doing it now. I thought this will just be a nice resume for me. After all, I want to be an actor, and it's nothing wrong if someone is sort of offering me a role on a platter, and I'm going to do this, and if I do this film, it'll just be a feather on my hat. Just to think that I can maybe move on. Maybe I can go to Bombay or somewhere, and I said, I'm one film experienced guy, so just have better chances. So that's how I took it. I never saw myself at that stage that I would be working in Nepali films for the next 25 years, doing 300 films and just being rooted in this country. Mainly because there was no film scenario to speak about, 25 years ago. So I did that. If you use some of it, fortunately for me, that film was very, very well received. extremely well. It was unprecedented the way that Nepali film was received here. People thought that I was creating a sort of a mini revolution in Nepali film. That was very fortunate for me. And now when I look back, when people tell me how successful you think you are, when I look back, the most important factor that I see is that my own career growth in Nepali film and the Nepali film scenario sort of grew parallelly. That is the most fortunate part of my career, and that is the part that I take it as a success more than just being accepted by people and doing so many films and being consistently working for so many years and just growing up the ladder. More than that, what I think my true success lies in is that when I look back now in retrospect, my own personal career moving forward and the Nepali film scenario also moving forward parallelly along with my own career. I think that is the best part, and that is what I truly think is the success of my career. So that's just how it went. I started doing more films, the Nepali film scenario started growing, and the biggest question mark that I had initially was, will there be enough film being made in this country so I can give consistency to my work? Because no matter how good an actor you are, if there are not enough film being made, you don't have a profession to speak of. There's no way you can move forward. So my primary challenges in the beginning of the Nepali film scenario was also not just to be successful as an actor, not just to deliver the goods, but also to see that I can turn this into a profession. And in order to turn this into a profession, I have to create a scenario where films can be made, because if there are no films being made, then no matter how good actor I am, no matter how well accepted I am, I cannot give consistency to my career. So those were the main challenges in the beginning, not just to succeed as an actor, but also to create a film-making scenario in this country. But like I said, music in Europe took off very well, and in about a year or two of being in this in the film scene in Nepal, I reached to a position where I could actually encourage people to make films. Good, bad, or ugly, but a lot of people just came in and wanted to make films with me, and it was just a matter of my time. If I gave them my time, a lot of people were willing to make films. So besides just concentrating on being a good actor, I also had to see to it that people who wanted to make films somehow are able to make films, so that the Nepali film scenario grows. Therefore, whenever anybody wanted to make a film, I always intend to encourage them and to give my time as much as I can. Therefore, on the first 10 years of my career, I ended up working 18, 19 hours a day, moving from one movie set to another movie set. Because I took up all the offers that came my way, not just for my own benefit, but also I thought that the Nepali film scenario will grow, because the more people will come in, it's just not the actors who's getting busy, but also along with me, the technicians, there will be more directors coming in, there will be more, people, working hands coming in, and that's how the scene will grow. So I was encouraging to make lots of films, and I was putting in a lot of hours, and there were times when I was making about maybe an average 10 to 12 films a month and working about 18, 19 hours a day. And that went on continuously for 10 years. And in cinema, unlike other fields, we normally do not have any holidays. When we are contracted to do films, we are contracted for that many days, and there are no Saturdays or Sundays to speak of, unless your co-star gets sick or your cameraman gets sick, or the weather is bad or your camera is not working. That's the time when you get a holiday. And they don't tell you that in advance, so you just know it on that particular day, and you can't do much recreation. You can't plan for your recreation. So for 10 years, that's how we went, non-stop, and I kept on working. And then Nepali film scenario really grew. And like Mina said, when I was doing those films, initially the vague farsightedness that I had to make it in Nepali film as an actor was that I really wanted to be connected with the people that I was catering to. And I saw that most of the people who were watching my films were day-to-day ordinary Nepali people, the mass, what we call. And so whenever I was doing my role or a character in a film, I wanted my role and my character to be connecting to these people. Even though the irony is that my fascination for film started off on realistic cinema, and Nepali cinema is very entertaining and illusionary, and if you really look at it from one point of view, it doesn't really make any sense, except for just an entertainment non-stop packaging. But nevertheless, in those films and those characters that I did try to connect with the ordinary people that came to see my film. I wanted them to identify with my character. I wanted them to sort of like see the challenges through my character that they were going through. I wanted, through my character, I wanted to see them that I was expressing things that they were not able to express in their day-to-day life, or I was fulfilling few challenges and overcoming few challenges that they were facing in their own lives. Even though the cinema itself was on a very entertaining basis, through my character I wanted to sort of them to relate to it. And so on the initial phase, in most of my films, I ended up playing roles which connected with the ordinary people of Nepal, and they really took it in. And that I did it very sincerely. It was not a calculated professional effort, but it was also something that I truly wanted to do it from my heart and truly wanted to connect with my audience. And whenever I was doing those roles, I really wanted to put myself into their position, into their shoes, and see things the way they saw it. And for a moment, I was actually not just doing out the roles professionally, but trying to live and feel the things that the people who are actually living the day-to-day life of my characters were feeling. So there was a certain degree of honesty which I performed my characters. And I think that is one of the reasons why that most of the people who went to see it, even though they saw it on an entertainment level, they were somehow able to see that honesty, the way that I portrayed the roles. And a common person who was sitting in the audience saw it, oh, how, I can relate to this person. I can link myself to this person. So I ended up playing a lot of roles in movies which sort of like represented the underdogs, represented the suppressed. And of course, those days, the social scenario and the political scenario, and even to a certain extent, cultural scenario of the country was slightly different from what it was now. So I was sort of like taking the issues, emotions, and spirit of those times, and those normal, average Nepali people were really able to relate to it. So that's how I represented myself in the film. It was representing the underdogs, the underprivileged, people who who were not getting their platform to voice their voice. So they saw me as their representative when I came to the screen and, narrated my dialogues, my lines and things like that. They thought that I was really voicing their voice, which they were unable to do. So there was a phase in my film career where I was sort of like taken up as a person who represented the angry, confused, unsatisfied youth. And my character was known as an angry young man, and was always as this rebellious character who is angry at the things that the society is going through, angry at the way things are being served to him, the way he has been treated as a young person. So a lot of youth identified with that, those days. And of course, cinema is, one type of cinema does not cater to all the times, because the purpose of the cinema is catered to the spirit and emotions and lifestyle and taste of that particular time. So every phase has its own purpose in cinema. So at that time, I thought most of my films were very successful in communicating the spirit of that time, the emotions of that time, the turmoil the youth was going through it. And I was sort of like, one way or the other, representing them on screen, even though it was sugar-coated with entertainment and things like that, and dreams and illusion. But somewhere beneath that, the audience saw that somehow I was trying to connect with them in the various roles that I did, where people from various backgrounds were. And there were all kinds of compliments that I used to get. And they were very different kind of compliments from most actors around the world gets. Like once I was in Chitwan in a film premiere. There were a lot of people gathered around, and most of my film's titles were things like, I did a film called Bhaiya and Kancha and Bahadur and Gaunde and Ek Number Ko Paake. So this is the average representing average people. So I did a film called Bhaiya where I was this porter. I was in Chitwan in this film premiere, and there was this whole big crowd gathered around me, and amongst the crowd I see this guy who is, from the tools that he had in his hand, I made it out that he was a porter. He's sort of like, slicing his way towards me in the crowd, and he came over to me. I was in the car, and he just, made a big effort to come towards me, and finally he reached me, and once he reached me, he sort of like held my hand, and he said, "I'm so glad you're one of us." He said, "I'm so happy that you're one of us, that one of us is also in the film." So instead of thinking that I'm a different person just portraying his role, he thought that I was, one of him just acting. So that was an extremely good compliment. And then because I was, in most of my films, I was also relating to several social issues of this country. Again, now I'm not saying that because I was taking up these issues in the cinemas, my cinema was hardcore, serious cinema, reflective cinema. I'm not saying that. But these issues were tackled, like I said, with a sugar coating of entertainment, illusions, and dreams and stuff like that. But somehow the people saw that. So most of my films, I was tackling these social issues, and some of them were also of the orphans, and I was also always a character that was like the underdogs. And so once I was I think I was in Darbar Market, and there were a lot of street children there, and street children in Nepali are known as Kate Hotsani. And the bachcha मेरो गाडीमा आएर के भन्नु भने उनीहरू मलाई देख्दै आउँदै थियो खातेहरू अनि उहाँहरू आएर मलाई के भन्नु राजेश दाइ पनि हामी जस्तै खाते हो भनेर because they saw me in so many of those roles in films. So these are the kind of compliments I got, and I thought this was really nice, and at least I was able to connect with the people. And this is also the most important and fulfilling factors of me being an actor. The way I have been able to relate to the average people, the way they have had a connection with me. And now, of course, after 25 years of being in film, and when I travel across the country or even abroad, now Nepali diaspora is all over the world, when I go, I see that connection has intensified, and what I see it is, as an actor, there are two ways the audience see or receive an actor. One is they put them in their eyes, and the eyes means they're attracted towards them, they like them, and there are other sets of actors that they put there in their heart. And I consider myself so lucky to be in the hearts of the people, because once you're in the hearts of the people, you are not just an actor, but you are also a person who has sort of like somehow played a certain kind of roles at certain times of their life in one way or the other, you know. And somehow you have made a difference in their life, not maybe in their entire life, but at one phase or the other, at one time or the other, you know. And this is the kind of experience that I'm going through now. Like whenever I go abroad or I'm here, and people who are 45, 50 or under, or you know, and they all are now in a different world with different things, and like me now, maybe not even watching so many Nepali films, but whenever they meet me, they always have one incident or the other in one phase or the other of their life which was related to my films. You know, they said, "Hey, you film and more is to hall ma जाँदाखेरि टिकट नपाएर हातै घुमाथ्यो या बुवाको पैसा चोरेर म गाउँबाट तपाईको फिल्म हेर्न गएको थिएँ." So I get all these stories, and I see that most people in one phase or the other, one time or the other, somehow my movies have played a part in their lives, and this is a very fulfilling thing. So I feel very connected with the Nepali people now, and I get this very warm feeling whenever I'm around the country and around the world meeting Nepali peoples from all types of backgrounds, all sorts of stratas, and I feel very comfortable being with all types of Nepali people, you know, irrespective of social background, irrespective of culture, irrespective of where they are. And especially now, you know, when Nepalis are spread around the world, and as an actress, you know, we go to various countries to sort of entertain them every now and then. And I find that even more fascinating because, you know, the Nepalese people are living around the world now. There's a huge Nepali population in the States. There are a huge Nepali population in the UK, in the Middle East, in Malaysia, and everywhere, in Europe, in France, in Germany. And I go there, and they're basically all Nepali. You know, they're all, the common denominators, they're all Nepali. But then, again, wherever they're living now, somehow the local flavor has also taken them over. You know, like the Nepali person in America, for example, he's Nepali, but then there's this American flavor that has covered it. The Nepali person living in Germany is Nepali predominantly, but then there's this German flavor that takes over it. And that I find very fascinating. And that's the thing that really intrigues me when I'm traveling around the world. You know, the common Nepaliness, and yet again, the local flavor has somehow affected them, and there's that blend of the two. I mean, you know, the connection with the people is, I consider myself very, very lucky to have this connection, because it's not that all actors get to have this, you know, heart-to-heart connection with your audience on a very genuine basis. So my experience of being an actor in this country is probably very different from any actors around the world, you know. And I really don't know how fans and public treat actors around the world, because I've never experienced that. But from what I see, it's a different kind of adulation, different kind of attraction from what I go through here. It's almost like being a family member. It's just like meeting someone from your own family. That's the kind of response I get when I meet people, you know, in this country. Whether I'm in the rural area, whether I'm in the urban area, whether I'm abroad. But that really doesn't mean that all the films that I did had, you know, totally satisfied me, or the Nepali film scenario has really, you know, progressed tremendously by me being in it and working in 300 odd films and being consistently at it for 25 years. No. You know, whenever people ask me about what is the scenario, the situation of the Nepali film, you know, where do you think it stands? I could never give one direct answer. You know, whenever I had to tackle a question like this, I intend to look through two different lenses. if I look through one lens, I see a lot of progress being made, no doubt. No doubt we have moved from point A to point B, because, like I said, when I started 25 years ago, I didn't know where I was going. There was no film scenario to speak of. I had no idea I would be 25 years, consistently working here and doing 200 films. So that way, somehow I think progress has been made. There is a Nepali film scenario to speak of. There are people who are involved in making films in this country. There are people who are seriously involved in their acting career, seriously involved in their movie-making crafts, whether it be technicians, whether it be behind the camera or in front of the camera. So that way, in the course of 25 years, I think we have made a certain progress. We have certainly traveled from point A to point B. But then if I look through the other lens, I see a lot of dissatisfactions and a lot of things yet to be done. I believe that we have not really progressed as much as we should have. And especially in the last 5, 6, 8 years, I think that we have not been able to address our cinema as effectively as we were able to do it in the initial period of my career. The way I was able to impact the normal audience with my kind of films. At this changing phase, we have not been able to do the same. Because like I said, cinema or any other things, it's very volatile, it changes. As people evolve, things that they take, the things that they receive has to evolve as well. Just because the films that I did 10 years ago were identifiable with the people does not mean that the same films will be connecting with the people today, because today's people, aspirations have changed, their spirit, their emotions, their lifestyle, their tastes have changed. So the duty of cinema today is catered to the changing times, and that's where I think we have sort of kind of failed, because we have not been able to connect with the changing times as much as we were able to connect 10 years or 15 years ago, because time has definitely changed now. The youth the aspiration of the youth is different, the social scenario of the youth of today is different. The kind of things that they want to do is different. The challenges and ideas that they want to bring is different. But that we have not been able to effectively portray in our cinema. So we're at this point in time, sort of like going through what we call a transitional period, but the transitional period is stretching much more than we would like it to be. And that I take the blame upon us. I think it is our duty as a filmmaker to understand the changing scenario of Nepali society, especially of the youth, the changing scenario of the reason why I'm saying youth is, you see, the cinema is a very youth-oriented medium, especially in Nepal, because it's a very youth-dominated country. Like 70% of the people are below 35 years of age, I think. And most of the audience that come to watch cinema are predominantly teenagers below 50. They make up 75% of the audience. So it is very important that our cinema somehow, the subjects that we portray, the issues that we put forward, should somehow connect with the youth of today. And I think our cinemas for the last, I think it's almost 5, 6, 7 years, where we think we have sort of failed to meet up those challenges. And the blame is entirely upon us, because I think we're not working hard enough. We're not tackling those challenges as filmmakers, as people who are responsible for making films. And I also believe that, like 20 years ago when I started off, just watching the cinema was a novelty. Just going to a movie theater and watching the cinema itself was a novelty. So that also played a role. And now, to go and watch a cinema is not a novelty. People are attracted to cinema predominantly because of the issues the cinema brings in, of the things that they think the cinema is worth watching. But those days, like the way Hartman and Bazar, oh, Rajesh Hamal, cinema, things are not like that. I mean, you have so many sources of watching
watch? Why would you want to go to, spend your energy, time, and money and watch a movie in a movie theater when you have so many other sources of watching cinema? Nepal, where we don't have roads, we have 75 different channels beaming in your television, from all over the world. You have internet, you have VCDs, you have DVDs at home to watch, and the Chinese have made it so accessible that it can come very cheap and everyone can buy it. So why make the effort and energy to, take a bus ride, go to a movie theater, unless the movie is worth watching. So that's so the challenges for us has intensified because now the real challenge has started. Because now it's very important that we bring in good issues, good subject matter that truly affects the people. So there's no hitting around the bushes now. Maybe 15, 20 years ago, there's so many other factors that played to bring people into the movie theaters. Now it has to be hardcore thing that you are catering, that you are doling it out. So I think it's a very challenging time even for the makers. But we are sort of, I think, lagging behind because I believe that there is no dearth of Nepali people wanting to watch a Nepali film. But Nepali people will not watch a Nepali film just because it's Nepali. Nepali people will watch a film if it's an interesting film. And if it's an interesting film, it doesn't matter whether it's Chinese, American, Indian, or whatever, or Nepali. And I also believe that when we make film in this country, the Nepali people are predominantly, when they go to watch a Nepali film, they want to see the issues that they can relate to. The issues that they face on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it doesn't happen, when I say issue, it doesn't have to be a serious thing, but even if it's sugar-coated with entertainment, illusion, and whatnot that cinema does, there has to be certain aspects of those films that people identify and can link with, But if we make films that does not do that and just get carried away with films being elsewhere in a different culture, where different people are connected with those, and try to make a bad copy of it, and then, and then cater to our people, it doesn't hit them. I think Nepali people are interested in watching a Nepali film, which are well made, which are presented well, with issues that they can relate, whether it be in the form of entertainment, whether it be in the form of social issues, political issues, various issues that this country goes through. And the good model that I see is that, like most of us are so influenced by Bollywood films that even our school of thoughts of the filmmakers of Nepal is predominantly Bollywood, that we intend to sort of blindly take in the successful films in Bollywood as something that has to be replicated here and catered to the people. But I think that is, we are, we're fortunate or unfortunate to have such a influential movie-making scenario in our next door. But I don't think I feel that maybe it's not too wise to emulate them so blindly, because we are in a totally different social scenario, economical scenario, development stage. So that is probably not the best model for us to follow, even though we are so similar culturally, linguistically, and in so many other ways. The model that I could really relate to was actually the model that Nigeria is following. And it's really coming up as a strong filmmaking country. And it's not very old. Nigeria has been making films only for the last 15, 20 years. And now they're a very predominant force. They make films in a very low budget. Most of them are films that are made under $50,000, $70,000, which is about Patasa film. I was hearing this the other day, this director from Nigeria who made a film in 7 days in less than $10,000. And the Nigerian audience actually lap up each and every movie that come out from there. Even though most of the Nigerians, they speak English and they like to watch Hollywood films, so there's a big threat and challenge there. But nevertheless, when the Nigerian films are made, most of the Nigerians' audience are attracted to it. And the reason being is that And some of these directors have so successfully portrayed the day-to-day issues of Nigeria that people can relate to it directly. They can identify, whether it be social issues, political issues, youth-related issues, issues that the citizens of those countries face on a day-to-day level. Whether it be, it can be romantic issues, it can be, issues related with families, love, everything. There are so many issues a society or a country goes through. And these directors, what they have done is they have not sort of blindly followed a successful model of elsewhere where people are doing things in a different level, but what they did was they tried to understand their own culture, own things, and brought that to their cinema. And they made cinema in a very little budget, so definitely budget is not a constraint. They make film on a very basic technology, but they make about maybe 20 times more money than what they spend. And that is because the people of that country are really relate to the issues that they see in the cinema. And they connect with the issues, and they become very popular. And so I think that is the kind of role model that Nepal should be following it, because we cannot do things, our aspiration should not be to do things better or be the best, but to do things differently. Because every country has its own development process, its own economical parameters and criteria, social conditions, and we all have to think by being within that boundary, not just in filmmaking, but in anything else. We cannot say that our aspiration is to be a powerful country in the next 10 years. Maybe China can say that, maybe India can say that, but we cannot say that. If we say that, it will be unrealistic. So for us, instead of just winning the game or being the best or being the topmost, we should be more aspiring to do things differently. Maybe do things in our own ways that will attract other people, bring our uniqueness to the table, which can attract other people. That's how we can do it. Because no matter what we say, even if we say that Nepal is the strongest country in the world, Nepal is the biggest, and we're so proud to be Nepali, it's all right to say that in a poem or a song or a movie, but you got to call a spade a spade. We got to know our own limitations, and we got to be realistic. And when we act on realistic, it doesn't mean that we have to be inferior. It doesn't mean that we have to be powerless. Within our boundaries, we can create something that can attract other people. We create something that we can bring to the table that is uniquely ours. And if not, be the best, we can be different. And that differentness will be, I think, will be acceptable. Will be taken with respect. So that is the line that I think we should follow. The directors that we have right now is actually not doing their homeworks of understanding the emotions and the issues that the general public is going through right now. That's where we're lacking. And Nepal has changed tremendously in the last 10 years. I see that the views of the youth, the aspirations of the youth, the desire of the youth, and even to a certain extent the social conditions of the youth have changed tremendously. And some of us, in many of the fields, I'm not just in cinema, I think even in politics, even in administrations, we have not been able to chase this changing time, to meet this changing time. Somehow, in many of the areas in this country, we have not been able to keep up with the changing times that the youth is going through. In some places, I feel that we're too stagnant, and on the other sphere, especially when it comes to the young people in this country, they are moving far ahead. Even our actors in the political scenario are not in par with the changing times of the youth and may not, are not catching it up. So I think it is for all these fields to wake up, to realize that there's this huge force which is changing tremendously in a very high speed. And there are other people who are more on an authoritative position, on a responsible position, who are not being able to keep up with this changing time. So that's where the challenges lies, I think. And as a youth, I am very, I love this ambiguous approach when I see youth. In one aspect, I see Nepali youth have a lot of aspiration. They have new ideas. They want to do things. They want to, be successful in life. But on the other side, when I look at the youths, I feel sort of very afraid sometimes, because the kind of social conditions that we have, the kind of political situation that we have, the kind of economical situations that we have, maybe, adjusting this youth, incorporating them in the development of the country is not been done effectively. That's why we see that the most of the youth, whenever they want to progress in life, whenever they want to develop in life, they see not this country as a fertile ground, but they see elsewhere as a fertile ground. Most of the youth that you speak now, you talk to them, and if they are very aspirational, or if they want to progress in life, they're thinking of going and living in another country, or working in another country, or doing things in another country, and not really wanting to do things here. And that really scares me, because sometimes I think this country is not able to accommodate the aspirations of the youth. And whenever I go around and meet young people like you guys, I sometimes get very frightened and scared that here are people who are very ambitious, very aspirational, very with great ideas and want to implement them, but are we giving them the playing field? Are we giving them the field where they can really, implement what they are capable of? And young people, of course, if they don't find that playing field, they like to move elsewhere. They like to go somewhere else, because after all, people want to progress as an individual. So that way I feel that